The morning sky turned an unnatural shade of purple as the massive ships descended through Earth's atmosphere. 12-year-old Tom stood in his family's wheat field, his mouth hanging open as he watched the alien vessels break through the clouds. The ships were smooth and black, shaped like arrowheads, and longer than anything humans had ever built. His father, Dr. James Miller, grabbed his shoulder. "Get inside now." The urgency in his father's voice made Tom's heart race. He had never heard his dad sound so afraid before. Inside their farmhouse, his mother, Dr. Anna Miller, was rushing between rooms, gathering papers and hard drives. Both his parents worked at the nearby military research facility, and Tom knew something was terribly wrong when he saw them shoving documents into a hidden safe behind the kitchen cabinets. "The stalkers," his father said, turning on their old television. "They're here earlier than we expected." The emergency broadcast showed scenes from major cities around the world. New York, London, Tokyo. All of them had massive ships hovering above their skylines. The reporter's voice shook as she described the situation. "The alien race known as the Stalkers has begun their invasion of Earth. All citizens are advised to." The broadcast cut off, replaced by a new image. Tom felt his blood run cold as he saw the alien for the first time. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, with gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer like metal. Its 4 eyes glowed with an intense orange light, and when it spoke, its voice seemed to echo inside Tom's head. "People of Earth," the alien announced, "I am the first commander of the Stalker fleet. Your world now belongs to us. Resistance is pointless. Your military forces are primitive compared to our technology. Surrender now, and we will be merciful." Tom's mother grabbed his hand. "That's their leader," she whispered. "The first commander has conquered 17 other worlds. No one has ever defeated him." The house shook as more ships passed overhead. Through the windows, Tom could see smaller vessels now, sleek pods that moved faster than any human aircraft. They were heading toward the military base where his parents worked. "They're after the research," his father said, pulling out an old tablet from the safe. "Everything we learned about them is on this device. If they get it," he handed the tablet to Tom. "Son, you need to hide this, no matter what happens." "But Dad," the sound of explosions cut him off. The military base, visible on the horizon, was now covered in flames and strange purple energy beams. Alien pods were landing around it, and tall figures were emerging from them. "They're coming," his mother said, her face pale. "They know we were studying their biology. They'll be looking for us." His father pulled up the entrance to their storm cellar, hidden under a rug in the living room. "Tom, get in. Take the tablet. Don't come out until it's safe." "I won't leave you," Tom protested, but his mother hugged him tight. "You have to," she said softly. "You're braver than you know, sweetheart. Whatever happens, remember that we love you." The sound of alien engines grew closer. Tom clutched the tablet to his chest as his parents lowered him into the cellar. The last thing he saw was their faces looking down at him before they closed the hatch. From his hiding place, Tom heard heavy footsteps above. Strange voices spoke in harsh, clicking sounds. Then he heard his father's voice. "We won't tell you anything." "The research data," a deep, echoing voice demanded. The first commander himself. "Where is it?" Tom held his breath, tears running down his face as he heard the sounds of struggle above. Then everything went quiet, too quiet. He was alone in the dark, holding the tablet that contained secrets about the aliens, secrets they desperately wanted to keep hidden. He wiped his eyes, determination replacing fear. His parents had trusted him with this responsibility. Now he had to figure out how to use it against the aliens who had taken them. Tom waited in the dark storm cellar until his legs felt numb. Hours passed, marked only by the gentle hum of his father's tablet and distant explosions. When the sounds above finally stopped, he gathered his courage and pushed against the heavy hatch. The house he had grown up in was destroyed. Broken furniture littered the floor, and alien footprints marked the walls where the stalkers had searched every corner. The family photos were shattered, and the kitchen safe hung open and empty. Tom's throat tightened as he realized his parents were truly gone. He clutched the tablet closer and crept toward the broken front window. Outside, the purple sky had darkened to a deep violet, and strange aircraft patrolled the area with sweeping searchlights. In the distance, he could see the alien ships hovering over the city, their massive forms blocking out the stars. The tablet in his hand suddenly lit up with a soft blue glow. Tom nearly dropped it in surprise. The screen showed a message. DNA match confirmed. User: Tom Miller. Access granted to Project Stalker. His father had prepared the tablet for him. Tom's hands shook as he opened the files. Pages of research data scrolled past, diagrams of stalker anatomy, test results, and notes written by his parents. Most of it was too complex for him to understand, but certain words caught his attention. Enhanced auditory sensitivity and frequency vulnerability. A noise outside made him freeze. Heavy footsteps approached the house. Through a crack in the wall, Tom saw two stalker soldiers walking past, their armor gleaming in the strange purple light. They were talking in their clicking language, but thanks to their translation technology, he could understand them. The first commander wants this sector searched again, one said. He believes the human scientists hid their research somewhere in this area. These primitive dwellings are all the same, the other replied. Nothing but weak structures and useless objects. Tom held his breath until they passed. He needed to find a better hiding place, somewhere he could study the tablet's contents safely. His mind raced to remember options. Then it hit him. The old storm drain system that ran behind their property. Waiting until the patrol moved further away, Tom grabbed his backpack from his room. He filled it with whatever food he could find in the kitchen and a flashlight. The tablet went into a waterproof case his father had used for camping trips. Moving as quietly as possible, Tom crept out through the back door. The wheat field where he had stood that morning was now trampled flat, creating clear paths where stalker patrols had searched. He stayed low, using the damaged crops as cover. The entrance to the storm drain was hidden behind overgrown bushes at the edge of their property. Tom had discovered it years ago while playing, though his parents had warned him to stay away from it. Now it would be his sanctuary. Just as he reached the bushes, a spotlight swept across the field. Tom dropped to the ground, his heart pounding. Above him, a stalker patrol ship hummed past, its sensors scanning the area. He could hear the first commander's voice echoing from its speakers. "Attention, humans. Your resistance is futile. We have captured your leaders and disabled your military forces. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Continue to hide, and we will hunt you down one by one." The ship moved on, and Tom quickly pulled open the rusty drain cover. The tunnel below was dark and damp, but it was also safe from the stalkers' patrols. He climbed down, pulling the cover back into place above him. In the beam of his flashlight, Tom looked at the tablet again. If his parents had hidden their research here, there had to be a reason. They had trusted him with this information, and now he had to figure out why. Something about the stalkers' hearing was important, maybe important enough to make even their mighty commander afraid. Setting up his new hideout in a dry section of the tunnel, Tom began to read through his parents' research. He didn't understand everything, but he was good with computers and sound equipment. If there was a way to use this information to help Earth and save his parents, he would find it. The storm drain became Tom's home over the next few days. He had created a small living space using old blankets found in a maintenance storage area, and his father's tablet provided enough light to read by. The constant drip of water and distant rumble of alien ships became his new normal. Tom spent hours studying his parents' research files. Most of the scientific terms confused him, but he remembered how his father always said, "When something seems too complex, break it down into smaller pieces." So that's what he did. The first important thing he noticed was about stalker hearing. The aliens could detect sounds humans couldn't hear at all. This helped them hunt and fight better than any human soldier. But as Tom read more, he found something interesting. This superior hearing might also be a weakness. One morning, while reading through test results, Tom heard voices above. He quickly turned off the tablet and stayed perfectly still. "The human children are most troublesome," a stalker soldier said, their heavy footsteps vibrating through the drain ceiling. "They hide in small spaces where our sensors cannot detect them." "The first commander grows impatient," another replied. "He wants the research data found before the next phase begins." Tom waited until they passed, then pulled out his father's old music player from his backpack. He had found it while gathering supplies from his room. His dad used to play with sound frequencies as a hobby, creating weird noises that drove their dog crazy. Looking back at the tablet, Tom found a section about stalker hearing tests. His eyes widened as he read. Subject shows extreme discomfort at frequencies above human hearing range. Physical symptoms include disorientation and pain. Tom connected his father's music player to the tablet. Years of watching his dad work with sound equipment had taught him the basics. He started experimenting with different frequencies, keeping the volume low to avoid detection. After several hours, he created his first test sound. It was too high for him to hear, but the tablet's screen showed it matched the frequency his parents had documented. Now he needed to test it. Climbing up to a drain grate near the street, Tom waited for a patrol to pass. 2 stalker soldiers walked by, their armor clicking with each step. Very carefully, Tom pointed the music player up through the grate and pressed play. The effect was instant. Both aliens stumbled, their hands flying to their heads. They made horrible screeching sounds that hurt Tom's ears. The soldiers ran away, leaving their weapons behind. Tom quickly turned off the sound and ducked back down, his heart racing with excitement. It worked. The mighty stalkers had a weakness, and he had found it. But he needed something bigger, something that could affect more aliens at once. Checking his parents' files again, he found blueprints for a larger sound device. His father had been working on it at the military base before the invasion. The notes mentioned a storage room where they kept their equipment. Tom looked at his map of the storm drain system. One tunnel led right under the military base. If he could reach his father's lab, he might find the parts he needed. It would be dangerous. The base was now the stalker's main command center. The first commander himself operated from there. But Tom thought about his parents, probably being held prisoner somewhere. He thought about all the other captured humans. With determination, he packed his backpack with the tablet, sound player, and remaining food. "I'm not just some kid anymore," he whispered to himself, checking his map one last time. "I'm Earth's only chance." As he prepared to leave his hiding place, Tom heard the first commander's voice echoing through the streets above. "Attention, humans. In 3 days, we begin the final phase of our conquest. Your time grows short." Tom smiled grimly. 3 days was all he needed. The aliens thought humans were weak, but they had never faced a kid with nothing left to lose, and a plan that could bring even their mighty commander to his knees. The tunnel leading to the military base was darker and narrower than the others. Tom crawled through it slowly, using his father's tablet as a dim light. His backpack scraped against the ceiling, making him wince at every sound. After an hour of careful movement, he reached a maintenance ladder that led up to the base. Through a small vent, he could see the base's main yard. Stalker soldiers marched in perfect lines while their ships landed and took off. The sight that made his blood run cold was the first commander himself, standing on a raised platform. The alien leader was even more terrifying in person, his 4 orange eyes glowing as he directed his troops. "Report," the commander's voice boomed. A soldier approached and bowed. "We have converted the human laboratory into our command center. Their sound equipment has been stored in the West Wing, as you ordered." Tom's heart beat faster. The West Wing. He knew where that was. He had visited his parents at work many times before the invasion. But getting there wouldn't be easy. Suddenly, he heard noises from another tunnel. Tom prepared to run, but a whispered voice called out, "Hey, kid, over here." In the darkness, he saw 3 people wearing dirty military uniforms. One of them, a soldier named Jack, raised his hands to show he meant no harm. "We've been watching you," Jack whispered. "Saw what you did to those stalker patrols with that sound device. Pretty clever." Tom gripped his backpack tightly. "Are you part of the resistance?" Jack nodded. "What's left of it? We've been hiding in these tunnels, looking for a way to fight back. But you actually found something that hurts them." Tom thought carefully. He needed help to get to the sound equipment, but could he trust them? Looking at their faces, he saw the same determination he felt. People who had lost everything to the aliens. "I know how to defeat them," Tom said quietly. "But I need to get to the base's west wing. My father built a bigger version of this sound device." The soldiers looked at each other, then back at Tom. "Kid, that's suicide," Jack said. "The place is crawling with stalkers." Tom pulled out the tablet and showed them his father's research. "Look at these readings. The right frequency doesn't just hurt them. It can completely disable them. If we can power up the big device, we could take down their whole command structure." Jack finished, his eyes widening. "Including the first commander." They spent the next hour planning. Jack drew a rough map of the base's current layout, showing where the stalkers had posted guards. Another soldier, Maria, knew about the base's power systems. "They've tripled the power output," she explained. "If we can connect your sound device to the main grid, it would reach the entire base." The third soldier, Paul, had been watching the stalker patrol patterns. "They change guards every 6 hours. That's our window, the 2 minutes during shift change when they're most disorganized." Tom shared his idea. "If we create a distraction on the east side, most guards will go there. That's when we can sneak into the west wing." "The kid thinks like a soldier," Jack said with respect. "But it's still incredibly dangerous. Are you sure about this?" Tom thought about his parents, about all the other captured humans. "I'm sure. The stalkers think they're superior because they're bigger and stronger. But being small and underestimated, that's our advantage." They spent the rest of the day gathering supplies. The soldiers had collected abandoned weapons and communication devices. Tom modified his sound player, creating several smaller devices they could use as distractions. "Tomorrow at dawn," Jack decided. "That's when they rotate the guard posts." That night, hiding in the tunnels, Tom looked at an old photo of his parents on the tablet. "I'm coming," he whispered. "And I'm bringing help." Above them, they heard the first commander's daily announcement. "Humans, your time grows shorter. Tomorrow, we begin processing your leaders for information." Tom closed his eyes, his resolve strengthening. Tomorrow would change everything. Either they would succeed in their desperate plan, but he couldn't think about failure. Sometimes the biggest victories come from the smallest warriors, and he was ready to prove it. Dawn painted the purple sky with streaks of orange as Tom and the resistance fighters moved into position. The military base buzzed with alien activity, but Tom noticed something different today. The stalkers seemed agitated, moving faster than usual. "They're preparing for something big," Jack whispered as they crouched in the drainage tunnel. "Look at all that equipment they're moving." Through the vent grate, Tom saw stalker soldiers carrying large containers toward their ships. His heart sank when he recognized some of the boxes. They were from his parents' lab. "We have to move now," Tom said urgently. "They're packing up the research equipment." Maria's voice crackled over their stolen communicator. "Guard change begins in 5 minutes. I'm in position at the power station." Paul's voice followed. "East side distraction ready. Those sonic charges you made, kid, they better work." Tom checked his father's tablet one last time, making sure he remembered the exact location of the main sound device. The blueprint showed it in a storage room behind his father's old office. "Remember," Tom told Jack, "when I activate the small sonic charges, you have exactly 2 minutes to get me to the west wing. The stalkers won't stay confused for long." Jack nodded, checking his weapon. "Just like we planned." But what about the first commander? He's supposed to be inspecting the West Wing today. Tom's hands shook slightly, but his voice was steady. That's exactly what we want. He's the one who needs to hear this the most. The next few minutes passed in tense silence. Tom watched the stalker guards through the grate, counting down in his head. When the guard change began, he pressed a button on his modified music player. Across the base, 5 small sonic devices activated. The high-pitched frequency, inaudible to human ears, sent stalker soldiers stumbling and crying out in pain. The effect was exactly as Tom had hoped. Chaos erupted as guards ran toward the sources of their distress. Now, Jack pulled open the grate, and they sprinted across the yard. Tom's small size proved invaluable as they navigated the base. He could duck under windows where stalker patrols might see them, and squeeze through gaps in fencing that the aliens wouldn't think to guard. They reached the West Wing entrance just as an alarm started blaring. They figured out it's a diversion, Jack said, breathing heavily. Inside the building, Tom led the way to his father's old office. The halls were eerily empty. All the guards had rushed to handle the distraction. They found the storage room exactly where the blueprint showed it. There it is. Tom pointed to a large device that looked like a satellite dish combined with a speaker system. Help me hook it up to the power grid. While Jack guarded the door, Tom connected his father's tablet to the device. His hands moved quickly, remembering every time he had watched his parents work with their equipment. The tablet screen lit up with familiar settings. Just then, they heard heavy footsteps approaching. Jack pressed against the wall, signaling Tom to hide. Through the crack in the door, they saw the first commander himself stride past, his orange eyes blazing with anger. Find those responsible, the commander's voice boomed. No human tricks can defeat us. Tom's heart raced, but a small smile crossed his face. The mighty commander had no idea that the biggest threat wasn't some army or weapon. It was a kid with his parents' research and a simple understanding of sound waves. Maria's voice whispered through the communicator, "Power grid ready. Everything is diverted to your sector." Tom made the final connections, his father's words echoing in his mind. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most powerful. The device hummed to life, its dish pointing toward the ceiling. Tom's fingers hovered over the activation switch. Outside, they could hear the first commander ordering his troops to search every room. "Ready?" Jack whispered. Tom nodded, his expression determined. Time to show them what human kids can do. The first commander's footsteps echoed closer to the storage room. Tom's finger rested on the activation switch, his heart pounding so loud he worried the aliens might hear it. Jack stood ready by the door, watching through the crack as stalker soldiers filled the hallway. "Sir, we found something," a soldier called out. "Energy readings from this room." The storage room door burst open with a crash. Tom and Jack pressed themselves against the wall behind the door as the first commander strode in, his massive form filling the doorway. His 4 orange eyes scanned the room, finally fixing on the activated sound device. "The human sound equipment," the commander growled. "Destroy it." That's when Tom stepped out from behind the door. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." The commander's head snapped around, all 4 eyes widening in surprise at the sight of a small human child. For a moment, the mighty alien leader seemed speechless. A youngling. The commander's voice held a mix of amusement and disbelief. "This is what's been causing us trouble." Stalker soldiers moved to grab Tom, but he held up the tablet. "One more step, and I activate the frequency that dropped your soldiers earlier. Only this time, it'll be 1,000 times stronger." The commander raised his hand, stopping his troops. His orange eyes studied Tom carefully. "You're one of the scientists' offspring, the one who escaped with the research data." "I'm their son," Tom said proudly, his voice steady despite his fear. "And I know your secret now, the thing you tried so hard to hide, your greatest weakness." The commander's metallic skin shimmed with anger. "You understand nothing, human child. I have conquered 17 worlds. I have defeated armies of adult warriors. You think you can stand against me? Tom smiled. That's exactly what I'm counting on. You think you're so superior. You never thought a kid could beat you. That's why you didn't find me. I was too small for your sensors, too unimportant to worry about. He took a step closer to the sound device. But while you were looking for soldiers and weapons, I was reading my parents' research, learning about how your enhanced hearing gives you an advantage in battle, and about how the right frequency can turn that advantage into a crippling weakness. The commander's confidence wavered slightly. You're bluffing. That device cannot. Want to bet? Tom's hand moved to the switch. My dad's notes were very specific about which frequencies hurt you most. And this isn't some small sonic charge. This is their final project, powered by your own energy grid. Jack stepped forward, his weapon raised. All the power you diverted to this sector, Commander. It's now feeding directly into this device. The commander's eyes darted between Tom, the device, and the tablet. For the first time, the mighty alien leader showed signs of uncertainty. If you surrender, Tom said clearly, if you release all the human prisoners and leave Earth, I won't activate it. But if you try to stop me, his finger pressed slightly on the switch. You dare threaten me? The commander roared, taking a step forward. I will. Tom pressed the switch halfway. A high-pitched whine filled the room, too high for human ears, but devastating to the stalkers. Every alien soldier dropped to their knees, including the commander, who staggered back against the wall. That was 10% power, Tom said calmly, though his hands were shaking. Should I try 20? 50? 100? The commander's orange eyes flickered with pain and fear. Wait. Stop. Do you surrender? Tom's voice grew stronger. Do you admit that humans, even human children, aren't as weak as you thought? The mighty first commander, conqueror of 17 worlds, looked up at the small human child who had brought him to his knees. In his eyes, there was something no one had ever seen before: defeat. Please, the commander whispered. No more. The military base's main yard was filled with an incredible sight. Hundreds of stalker soldiers laying down their weapons while human resistance fighters emerged from hiding. Above them, the strange purple sky began clearing, returning to Earth's natural blue as alien ships retreated into space. Tom stood on the same platform where the first commander had once lorded over humanity. But now the mighty alien leader knelt before him, all four orange eyes dimmed with defeat. Order your forces to release all human prisoners, Tom commanded, holding the tablet steady. The sound device hummed behind him, a constant reminder of his power over them. The commander spoke into his communication device, his once booming voice now shaky. Release all humans. Begin evacuation procedures. This world is not ours to take. Maria's voice crackled over their stolen communicator. Tom, they're opening the detention cells. Everyone's coming out. Tom's heart leaped as he scanned the crowds of released prisoners. Then he saw them. Two familiar figures running toward the platform. His parents, tired and thin but alive, pushed through the crowd. Tom. His mother cried out, tears streaming down her face. His father looked up at him on the platform with a mixture of pride and amazement. The first commander watched this reunion with his four eyes, something like understanding crossing his alien features. You did all this. For them. Family. Tom said simply. Something you probably wouldn't understand. On all those worlds you conquered, did you ever stop to think about the families you were destroying? The commander's metallic skin dulled. We thought humans were primitive because they were emotional, because they cared for their young. We saw it as weakness. That's why you lost, Tom's father said, climbing onto the platform. You never understood that love and family don't make us weak. They make us stronger than any weapon. Tom handed the tablet to his father, then ran to hug his parents. Around them, more families were reuniting, their joyful cries filling the air where alien commands had once echoed. The device, the commander said quietly. It was never finished, was it? You completed your parents' work. Tom nodded. I remembered everything they taught me. Not just the science, but the important stuff, like never giving up on family. Jack and the other resistance fighters secured the alien weapons while Maria worked to restore Earth's communication systems. Paul organized teams to help the injured and reunite separated families. The first commander rose slowly, his massive form no longer seeming as terrifying. In 17 conquests, no one has ever defeated us. And now, a human child. He paused. Perhaps it is we who were primitive, not understanding the true source of strength. What happens now? Tom asked his parents. His father smiled. Now we rebuild. And thanks to you, we'll be ready if they ever return. The commander shook his head. We will not return. Your world will be marked in our records. Not as primitive, but as protected. Protected by something stronger than our weapons, the love of a child for his family. As the last alien ships disappeared into space, the sun broke through the clouds, shining on the free Earth below. People cheered and hugged, celebrating their unexpected victory. Tom stood with his parents, watching the ships leave. I kept your research safe, he told them proudly. You did more than that, his mother said, holding him close. You proved that the smallest among us can make the biggest difference. His father ruffled his hair. And you proved that sometimes the best weapon isn't a gun or a spaceship. It's a child's love and determination. The family stood together as the blue sky cleared completely. Earth had faced its greatest threat and survived, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the courage and cleverness of a child who refused to give up on his family. And somewhere in space, the first commander had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate the power of a human child fighting for what they love.